Hey guys, Lyra Linx here, and I'm back with Chapter 3 of Drowning Emotions. This is the last chapter that I wrote for this. Whoops. So the next video is going to be me explaining where I wanted to take the story previously and how I would end it now. And I'm not sure if that'll be one long video or a couple shorter ones to better explain my plans for it, but I just feel like I should give it a proper conclusion. And since I'm now going to be done with this one, as well as I Miss You that I read, if there are any other fan fictions of mine that you want me to read, let me know. Or if you have one and want me to read through it or review it or anything like that, then leave it in the comments, and I'm gonna dive right into Chapter 3, titled Dating Complications. I remember that it's sort of violent. I could do a lot worse, I'm sure. Uh, well, I guess I'll just see where it goes, though. What? Dawn shrieked. You're thinking of breaking up with Drew? But why? The way she screamed made it sound like I was breaking up with her, which I would never do. I was nervous to say this to him, but I'm just not feeling that special connection anymore. He just gives me rose after rose, and it has slowly become meaningless to me. I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm sure I can find someone better anyway. Someone better. Not implying a guy or girl. Just someone better. And hopefully I'd be able to tell someone better how madly in love with them I was, without completely changing the subject altogether. It's kind of sad, ending it after so long being together, Dawn sighed. I can kind of understand what you mean, but I feel like there's something you aren't telling me. Spit it out. What's on your mind? I groaned and allowed myself to fall back into her bed, stretching out my arms. Let's just say there's someone else I like. However, I won't classify who. You'll just have to wait and see. Dawn puffed out her cheeks in anger. Ah, why won't you tell me? We're best friends, you know. We always tell each other everything, no matter how embarrassing it is. That was true. I had told Dawn many things about me that I'd never reveal to anyone else, which is another reason I love her. She'll always hear me out and knows just what to say when I'm feeling down. Her mere presence beside me can lift my spirits considerably. She also knew some very embarrassing things about me, too. She could write a whole story that would ruin my reputation. But of course she'd never dare, because I've heard all of her embarrassments as well. I told you that you'll find out, I responded. It's not like I'll be keeping it from you forever. I just need to get the nerve to ask this person out, and you'll be around when I confess. Damn straight, Dawn agreed with a stern nod. I need to be there to kick their... Ooh, wrong one. I need to be there to kick their ass if they try to reject you, like you did with Paul. I started laughing at the memory. I sat up and stared up at the ceiling. Oh, every time I glanced over at him, he'd be glaring at me. I really pissed him off. He deserved that, though. Nobody stomps over my girl's heart. Dawn and I exchanged a quick hug, and then Dawn spoke up again. You're really going to break up with Drew? I nodded. I'll call him tomorrow, though. He's probably asleep already. And besides, I'm too tired to break his heart right now. Arceus, I feel like a bad person. He was so into me, and now I'm just going to toss it all in the trash. Dawn put a comforting hand on my shoulder. If you think that you're making the right decision, then everything will be okay. For now, let's get some sleep. Besides calling Drew, you and I also need to apply to Sunny Shore College. I nodded and stood up, walking over to my bed. I threw off my club clothing, and Dawn did the same. I found myself sneaking a peek at her. Okay. She was wearing a black and white zebra print bra with matching panties. I immediately started to blush, and I looked away, feeling ashamed of myself. What was so attractive about another girl anyway? They usually weren't very muscular or handsome in the way guys were. They were just the same as me. Maybe that was the appeal of it. In a way, girls were all the same. And if it's natural for you to be attracted to someone similar to you, then I guess it isn't all that hard to see why people are gay or bisexual. Girls are pretty, especially Dawn. Knowing that, it was inevitable that we managed to get into that college. Boys would immediately flock to her. Now, how do I slowly murder each of them without Dawn noticing? I changed into the orange tracksuit-like clothing I used for pajamas and untied my bandana, setting it on the clutter nightstand beside my bed. Dawn changed into her pajamas, which were almost exactly the same as mine, only pink. I watched as Dawn crawled under the covers and started snuggling with her Piplup plushie. I laid down myself, taking hold of my Torchic plushie. These plushies were These plushies were two of many gifts we had exchanged to each other on Christmas. Every time I snuggled with this Torchic, I couldn't help but think of what it felt like whenever I held Dawn, latching her in my embrace. Little did Dawn know how meaningful our hugs were to me. "Night, May," Dawn yawned, rolling over. "Good night, Dawn," I responded. And so I slipped off into a dreamland, usually filled with images of Dawn. Time skip. "I don't wanna," I whined, staring down at the phone in my hands. It was the afternoon now. Dawn and I had gotten dressed and eaten breakfast and lunch, and we were about to apply to the college. After I break up with Drew. "Just call him," Dawn snapped at... Oh. Snapped at you. Oh, I used to write some second-person stories, too, on my DeviantArt, but that is neither here nor there. Dawn snapped at me. "All you have to do is jump him and hang up." I whined and hugged onto her. "But I've never broken up with anyone before. What if I hear him start to sob? What if he hates my guts? Do it for me, Dawn." I can't break off with your boyfriend for you," she retorted, detaching me from her. "But I've done it for you before," I argued. "I dumped that stalker guy, Conway. I dumped Kenny for you. Come on, just call Drew for me. You owe me." Dawn crossed her arms over her chest and shot me a look. "I refuse." "But why?" I cried out. I fell down to my knees and hugged her legs. "I can't do it, Dawn." She tried to shake me off, but I held on. "I said no. This is something you need to do on your own. I know I did it in the past, but I've been fending for myself nowadays, right? So man up and pick up the fucking phone." "Okay." "But I'm not a man. You're always acting in that special overdramatic way of yours. Act like a man and hike up your skirt." "Men don't wear skirts." I looked up at the cell phone that I'd placed on the counter before I started attacking her with my hugs. A dark aura seemed to surround it, and I cowered. I hid my face in my hands. "Ugh," I sighed, rising to my feet. "Here we go. Grow some balls, May. You've stood up to people before. This is no different. Be brave. Then know it's all your fault if he's angry or sad. Damn it, May, stop thinking about the negatives." Why is that so me? Dawn stifled her giggles at my argument with myself. She really had no clue how much I do that. I snatched up my phone and punched in the number that Ash had given to me. My heart started pounding like never before as I anxiously waited for Drew to pick up. With each passing ring, I started sweating more and more. Finally, when I thought I was going to get his answering machine, he picked up the phone. "Hi, Drew," I greeted awkwardly. Dawn inched over to me, placing her ear close to my phone, wanting to listen in on the entire conversation. "Yo," he called back at me. "Did you need something, May?" I gulped nervously and tore off my glasses with my teeth. Glasses? Why did I say glasses? I gulped nervously and tore off my gloves with my teeth, my hands starting to get unbearable. From heat? Explanation, please. I was almost as nervous about this as I was about telling Dawn how I felt, but I couldn't help but be nervous. This was an entirely new experience for me. It wasn't exactly the kind of thing I was used to doing. I just really don't like hurting people's feelings. Depending on the situation. Cough, Paul, cough. I'll never forgive him for that. Realizing that the thoughts stacking up in my head had caused me to go silent for an awkwardly long amount of time, I took a breath and spoke. "Drew, I'm really sorry, but I'm breaking up with you. I really am sorry, but things aren't going how I want them to go. It doesn't feel special anymore. It feels so ordinary and weird. Sorry." Arceus, how many times was I going to apologize? One side of me was sorry about this, and one side of me didn't care all that much. Life is such a twisted, confusing roller coaster of events and emotions. "No," Drew whispered. "Don't do this, May. I love you. Are you at your apartment right now?" "Yes," I reluctantly replied. Why do you want to know?" "I think I have something that can fix this. I can make this work. Just give me a chance, May. Stay right where you are. I'll be over in a couple minutes." Before I could protest, he hung up on me. I threw my phone down on the floor in frustration. Luckily, the floors were carpeted, so my phone would be just fine. I stomped over to my bed and collapsed, grabbing my pillow and covering my mouth with it. I then let out a scream, the pillow doing its intended job and muffling it. Dawn walked over, looking panicked. "What's wrong, May?" Dawn asked, looking really worried. I hate it when she looked at me with that face. I wanted her to be smiling. "I mean, I know you wanted to end things and he's coming over, but isn't screaming into your pillow a bit extreme?" "You don't understand," I breathed, feeling panicked. "Ash told me something at the club. You know how he invited me to Hatake Park?" Dawn nodded. "Ash said he was going to propose to me there. If I'm guessing right, I think he'll try and fix things by asking me to marry him. I don't want to marry Drew." "Okay. Why didn't you tell me about this sooner?" Dawn screeched. "Wait a second. Are you dumping him just because you didn't want to marry him?" "Dawn, you should know I'm not that horrible," I shot back, a bit angry with her. "I've been thinking about breaking up with him for a long time. The proposal makes things much worse, though. Especially since Dawn's the only one I ever want to marry. Oh no, how soon was that grass head going to be here? Was I really going to have to reject a proposal now? Ugh, that word. I stutter every time. It's so awful to think about. Most people might stare at me in shock for denying someone a proposal. They were always so sweet and romantic and all that other shit. And it's every girl's dream to get married, right? Well, getting married wouldn't be so awful if I could find a single place in Sinnoh where a homosexual marriage has been legalized. Wow. 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 Homosexuality actually happens to be a very touchy topic here in Sinnoh. What the fuck? I can't believe I ever wrote this. Like I know anything about homosexuality. Arceus, how many times am I going to start ranting about Drew or someone and then relate it to Dawn somehow? Focus on the current situation, May. But just as soon as I zoned back into reality, there was a knock at our door. I immediately froze up. Dawn ran over to answer the door, but before she did, she turned to me, a devilish grin on her face. "Let's hope he isn't a yandere. Hopefully he won't find the knife drawer." She then oh my gosh. I don't know how to feel about this story. She then opened the door, and sure enough, Drew stood there. He completely ignored Dawn and rushed over to me. I was still frozen in shock. He took hold of my hand and looked at me sadly. "May, I think I can change your mind about this," he said, looking and sounding desperate. "I was going to do this in a more romantic way at Hatake Park, but..." With his hand still wrapped in mine, he bent down on one knee and held up a blue box. He opened it up, and a diamond ring sat in there snugly. The diamond was an oval shape, and on the metal part of the ring, pictures of roses were engraved. How predictable of him to go and include that. He stared up at me hopefully, but my face immediately contorted into an "are you crazy" look. He took notice immediately. "Is this not enough to convince you?" I sighed and gently pulled my hand out of his. I stared into his eyes sadly. "When I said I wanted to break up with you, it was for good reason. I've been wanting to end things for a while, actually. So marrying you? It's out of the question." Drew looked confused. "But you always seemed so happy to see me, and... I'm sorry, they weren't as sincere as you thought. Drew, I just can't do this thing anymore. You always go through with the same routine every time you see me, like it's a job instead of a relationship, and... we never even had a real kiss. And this next one is really going to hurt, but there's someone else on my mind. Someone I believe I'd be a lot happier with." Drew snapped the case shut and glared at me, looking extremely hurt. "Really now? And who the hell is this guy? Someone who can make you happier? Who is he?" "That's none of your business," I screamed back at him. "Besides, what would you do with that information?" "I'll kill the bastard," he hissed, knocking down one of the vases on the shelf beside him. Again, the floors were carpeted, but he knocked it down from a good height, so its side cracked slightly. "Calm the fuck down, Drew." My current reaction. I screamed, backing away. "I'm sorry about this, but getting all worked up isn't going to make me love you." Drew rushed over to Dawn and jerked her by the hair. Whoa. She ran over to grab her cell phone, probably trying to call the cops. Drew took her to the ground and kicked her in the head. Damn, damn. And what the hell do you think you're doing? Calling the cops on me, eh? Bitch? Whew. He sat down on her and then punched her in the face. Dawn screamed in pain and spat out some blood. It looked like she'd bit down on the end of her tongue due to the punch. Rage boiled up inside me. Drew was beating up the one I loved most. That bastard. I never knew he had such an evil side to him. But I've got my dark side too, and I wasn't going to stand by and let him beat up my best friend. I clenched my fists and screamed, charging at him. I nailed him in the face and he toppled off of Dawn. I quickly helped him and gently pushed her, urging her to get back up. Or get back. I then scowled at Drew and punched him again as he tried to stand back up. Get the hell out of my house, I screamed at the top of my lungs, tears forming in my eyes, or else by the time I'm done with you, no one will recognize you. I'll beat you to a bloody pulp. You can fuck with me, but never fucking touch Dawn or I'll put you through something worse than hell. You tell him, girl. To make my point clear, I hoisted him up by the collar of his shirt and kneed him in the man spot with every bit of strength I had. Which seems to be a common move in my fanfictions. Oh my. He responded with a satisfying scream/moan of pain, and I pushed him back down onto the floor. I then backed away. I don't know what that even is. I then backed away and held up my hands. You have 10 seconds to drag your ass out of here before I send you to the hospital, I hissed. 10, I counted down aloud, putting down a finger with each passing second. 9. He staggered to his feet and started making his way to the door, still obviously in pain, mouth bleeding and bruises forming from my punches. 8, 7, 6. Drew sped up his pace, running even faster to the door. 5, 4. He reached for the doorknob. 3. And he was out. He sprinted down the hall, screaming something to himself. I think I heard, "That's one crazy bitch," or something along those lines. I ran over and slammed the door shut, then turning to face the injured Dawn. In complete silence, I prepared her an ice pack and walked over to her trembling body. I took her hands and led her over to my bed, where the two of us sat. She allowed me to hold the ice pack to her face. I used my free arm to wrap around her in an attempt to comfort her. She was really shaken up, even starting to cry a bit now. I was beginning to sob a bit myself. "I'm sorry," I wept, hugging her tighter. "Did I scare you? I just didn't know what to do. He hurt you and I just wanted him out. I even considered grabbing a kitchen knife if he got really violent." "It's fine," Dawn assured me, voice sounding choked from her tears. "I'm glad you did what you did. I just never thought Drew would turn out to be that kind of person." Ow. He punches really hard, and I think he ripped out some of my hair. "I don't see a bald spot or anything," I said back. "I'm really glad you're okay. I'm glad I hurried to your rescue before he could do worse. I love you, Dawn." "I love you too, May," she cried back to me. "You're the best friend I could ever have." She broke down and hugged me tightly, crying on my shoulder. I dropped the ice pack and wrapped my other arm around her now. This is enough. Just this is enough for me, for now. It didn't matter if she misinterpreted my "I love you" from just seconds ago. That's fine. One day she'll understand. For now, I was just happy to be able to hold her in my arms and hear her say those 3 words back to me. It's enough. And then an author's note. Well, that was a fun chapter to write. Don't get me wrong, I love contest shipping and all, but Drew bashing does have its appeals. May honestly confessed at the end of the chapter, but Dawn misunderstood. Can't have them get together too quickly, but it's enough for May, for now. Hehehe. Hope you enjoyed the chapter. I sure enjoy making them. Please make sure to leave a review. I'll usually respond. Expect more soon, as long as life doesn't get in the way. That last line is exactly what happened and why I stopped writing stories. But anyway, let's look at the reviews for chapter 3. Abenak. Next time, legal troubles. Also, dang, that was pretty violent. You're not entirely wrong. I don't know how to say that. Good chapter, but why Drew attacked Dawn in the first place? Because plot device. Megumis. It is cool, but I don't think I will finish it. I'm sorry. The writing is amazing and stuff, but Ikari shipping is my bane, contest shipping is shortly after. One thing, Drew was a little out of character. I know he was angry, but I don't think he'd go that far. Other than that, great. In chapter 1 when May mewed, I burst into laughter. Alright, fair. Queen Speller 67. Is this supposed to be a Yuri fic? Kind of. I would never go that far because I don't like Yuri. I don't mind girl relationships because I think it's still cute, but full on Yuri is not my thing. I like yaoi, but I don't know. I just don't like girls going at each other. So the story was never intended to get to that point. Yukeru. Please, for the love of everything and anything good in life, please, please update again. It's been a long time since you have, but I'll still hold out hope. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. You've been waiting for like a long time. Oh my. I mean, if she happens to find out that I'm making these videos, because I put it in my description on my fanfiction, then maybe she'll find it. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you liked this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and expect a video or maybe a couple videos explaining how I was gonna plan to end this story and progress it. I hope you have a great day or night, and goodbye.